Welcome, everybody. This is a presentation and collaboration meeting that we're having with the founder and developer of Awaken Dream Synergy, Denise, and Mark Wagner. Thank you both for joining us today, and I'm glad to see you here. This is great. We're looking to synergize and work together and make things more fun and engaging for all people. And so this is one of the ways that I've been looking at it, because I have children. And even though I don't have my children with me right now, I want to make their reality more fun than it is right now, not so depressing. And at the same time, get some of these concerns and societal networking debacles resolved, so that we can, as a species and as a planet, survive and thrive. And that's why I started looking into positive psychology and meeting with others that we found coherence. So Nate here is with us today, and he's my partner, and we've had lots of discussions with you guys before, so I don't think much of an introduction needs to be done, but we're here just wanting to provide some tools for everybody within the community to be able to more easily connect and accomplish their goals and their projects. Because we all have similar passions, similar visions, similar values. And I found this out like when I started meeting with people from the Awaken Dream Synergy group and other groups, that while we have a fuzzy vision most of the time, most people don't have that clarity of vision and focus. And so we wanted to provide this playground where they can start getting that clarity. So we can go up to the beginning of this Miro board. And I've got several different ways that we've put together for playing this game. But the main one is this one here. And it's just about mapping out who you are, what your values are, and then sharing your soul sparks, what you're passionate about and what your values are, and with others, to see how we can synergize and collaborate and find more coherence, because we start with the coherence of one. So this goes back to collective coherence. We can talk about the collective coherence foundational agreements that protocol.love has brought forth, and we walked through that path, and there was a lot there that we started looking into as a result of that. Putting it in front of regular people who are still confused about who they are is a little overwhelming, and so we got to go back to basics, I believe. And we can do it from a personal place or from an organizational perspective. You can use this game either way to identify values, identify focuses, and then start showing where those links really fit. And you can create your soul spark in any way you want to, because this is about you. This is about your passions, your skills, your desired way of working with others, and your rules of engagement. We want people to be able to ask questions. That's why we have this set up, so that everybody can have their own little profile board, and they can add post-its and stick-its to it. If they see things that are missing from the board, we want to know, because this right now is in that beta development testing phase. So we're asking you guys to participate and check this out and see what you think you could add and use this as a tool also in your own endeavors. I mean, this is all about, we want to be supporting and empowering the hero within all of you and giving you the tools that we have to share, and then share with others the other tools, and make this more of that collective commons, that as Zeek would call it, the coherent loving beings commons. And I mean, there are different commons that I'm sure will develop from this process. I think the main focus we want to provide here is that you are looking at images, you're identifying by images, which are more recognizable to people than just words, more understandable to a lot of people even than words. Because, you know, when you're talking about self-control, self-control could mean many things, but when you have a stop sign there saying, okay, this is my limit, this is where I want to control what goes in and what comes out, that's a real, like, visual representation of how you're self-control, you're using that self-control. And so these are just some of the icons that are being used. They have been adopted from the VIA Character Traits and Virtues Handbook by Seligman and Peterson. And then we started looking at SDGs. Why, you know, why did we do the SDGs? Well, because we have a whole world that we're wanting to connect with in bringing these solutions to bear. And in a lot of the third world and other countries, the SDGs are just a very clear focus that has been drawn, like a line in the sand, so to speak, for a lot of different governments and countries. And so we just started there, but that doesn't mean we're stopping there. We're also looking at sectors of society and community propulsion sectors. That's the new section that we've added here. And, you know, there's another section that's on the other side of the board for the skills, which still needs to be built out. And I'm thinking about guilds, and I'm thinking about some other ways in which these can be built out for that easily identifiable marker for people to understand what we're doing, how we're doing it, and where we're going from here. Thank you. So I believe Denise had some questions.
Awesome. So now that I've seen a little bit more, I'm wondering if you could take me a little bit through the how you would go from one end to the other. Like what's start point? I guess the starter point might be filling out your profile, and then the second point from there is saying what your values are and your virtues, or something like that. So how does it? Can you explain?
Let me zoom in. Let me zoom in. So this game can be played from a personal evaluation. And for a personal evaluation, we have a community forum you can join. You don't have to, but it's still in the works, you know. We want to be able to enable you to identify the character strengths and the SDGs and the community sectors, all of these parts. So where do you want to start looking at your own representation, your own sparks? Now, we want to be able to have it set up so that we're going from each chakra, and I identify in the badges, except for the SDG badges, I identify what chakras are linked to which sectors of society, though, and then also the character virtues and strengths and how they're related. So I would like to see that we start people off looking at those baseline functions of survival, whether that is looking at the character strengths and virtues or looking at the workforce and labor unions, or some other components like no poverty and no hunger, good health and well-being. So I'm just adding like one or two from each of these sections here in the character strengths and virtues. And this is set up because we have a character virtue and then character strengths that are listed underneath it. And this is what has been developed for the psychological and positive psychology community as their identifiers. And it's just the first attempt to do this. So, as you go down and look through these different virtues and their strengths, which ones are calling to you most? Which ones do you identify with most as being a part of who you are, what your values are? I hope that answers your question, Denise.
So you have like a pile or something like that, or in your profile space, or and then you grab a few of these pieces, right? Or are there a certain amount of pieces that you have to start with, or do you just say like, I want 10 of these and I want 20 of these and I'm everything, woo, jackpot? How do you do it?
Well, and that's the beauty of this game. So you do it however you want to. You create it however you want to. If you look over here in the completed SoulSpark section here, there have been multiple participants, putting together their own personal spark. And yes, we want to have your name at the very least, your name, your contact information, and how many hours do you want to spend nurturing your spark? How many? It's not, because these are building your soul spark has very little to do with me. My contribution here is saying, here, how do you want to nurture your spark? How do you want to engage with others? How do you want to focus your energy and your intentions? And where do you want to share your skills and your abilities? Because that's what it's about. And how do you want it to look? I mean, I've been working on this third spark here for weeks and it's still a mishmash, but I'm using all of them because I see a relationship, and for me, there are some focuses that I want to make larger. See how I've made some of these badges larger, and then others that I want to have surrounding it, like an organism, or elements even, we can do it that way too. But I would recommend, for the start of building your spark, that you pick one from each of those sections in the character strengths and virtues. So there are 6 virtues in the character strengths and virtues section. And then altogether, I think right now I have 32 badges for character strengths and virtues on the board. If you took 1 or 2 from each of the categories and added it to your profile board, that would be a good place to start, I think. But that's my rules. Like I say, it's supposed to be really open and providing you the ability to play around, see what works for you, how you want to present yourself and your projects.
Very cool. So then after a while, people are going to get to know what the colors mean, and or when it's the app itself, then you can like scroll over them and see like, oh, look, there's that, and there's this and that. That's really beautiful. That's really simple. It's really easy. You would imagine that you could have different sparks for different momentums. Like, okay, this is for my emotional body. This is for my physical. This is for my work. This is for my play. This is, and then you have like, oh, you want to meet, where do you want to meet for a work play? Or it's the new beer. It's the virtual beer, except for that I don't drink beer.
Right?
Let's meet for a spark.
Exactly. And these are those positive sparks. I mean, there's negative sparks out there. We do recognize those, and those are those shadows. And then there's also things that we identify that we need. That's a part of what this section here at the top of your tile. Here, let me zoom in here. So for example, I mean, this player has not come back yet, but he started working on his. We'd like to be able to have it where, I mean, as far as the mirror board is concerned, I can only have 16 people on the board at a time. So in this space, we're talking probably a week to 2 weeks. We'd like to see people get their spark created and then present their sparks. I mean, it's it's about your building your personal sparks and emotional strengths and virtues, but also being able to be transparent and open and sharing that with others, being able to share what questions and thoughts may have come up while you were building your spark, and how you think the rules should be in engaging using your spark, using the tools that we provided here. And we like to hear about your needs and your offerings and your passions and your values, you know, all those good things that show that you're ready to be a collaborator.
Cool. I love it. It's really, really simple, really beautiful. It's it creates like an art piece out of your soul spark. This is actually very similar to one of the someone else who was potentially going to present in Awakened Dream Synergy about dreams. So this is super cool. They actually the piece generates it according to your words. So this is cool that you can generate it according to your choice of what your feeling is in the moment for you up front, and also your core, what you base your daily living and momentum out of. So super cool. The questions that I have, that I had before, but I'm not sure if we want to go there, but I was gonna, because perhaps you want to talk more about the game, but if you want to, the questions I was asking earlier were, how do you plan on rolling this out? What's the goal? Where do you want it? It's a phone app, it looks like, or how do you want to see it being used? Where is it going to be integrated, et cetera, et cetera?
So what we're seeing is that this can be an overlay. You can even do like a signature overlay where you have your own set of icons that you're using, and you still are able to have access to the larger database. Our vision here is to take these sectors of society, community propulsion sectors, SDGs, and so forth, and put them in a dynamic database. So it's based on what you're putting in, what you're presenting, what information you want, and so you're able to more easily access stuff on No Poverty, for example, with community. Like one example Nate's been talking about for the past day is getting a database started of all of the churches, food banks, and where they are, when they are, you know, and how people can get food, meals, and other assistance through that type of structure. So they would be able to come in using simple icons like the one for No Poverty and No Hunger, and then put churches and nonprofits, which is in the sectors of society, as like the other component, and then having those two components bring up exactly what they're looking for, not having to go searching and diving because you're stuck with stupid algorithms from Google and stuff. You know, making it more user centered, not commercial centered. And then there's other, there's just so many ways we can do this. We already have in plans to have kiosks that would help with the community connections portals in places in like rural places, even in Africa and other countries that don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have anything other than 2G, you know, but we want to be able to provide something that they can still interact with to be able to get the information and data that they need to solve the problems that are within their community. So whether that is the resources that are local, the funding that's local, the
based more in quality of life ranking.
yeah, you know, and the teams that are on the grounds in that area, being able to have the ability to say, oh, all right, they're right over there, let's go connect and actually get something done instead of waiting for politicians to get their heads out of their you know what's. You know, this is why we wanted to be able to open this up, because it's about building and developing, and we have cards that we are going to be producing soon. There's even going to be physical tokens created for people to be able to exchange, like gratitude tokens, only it's going to be more than just gratitude or love. It's going to be appreciation and, you know, identifying other people who are great at journalism or investigation skills. You know, those add up.
Let's start.
What?
Let's start.
Ah, yes. And so without further ado, since you two are on the board,
Echo, are you on too?
let me get.
Oh, I see. Already shared with 12.
Yeah, and you know, it's this one here, this spark we created last Saturday in the workshop. That one we use the random spinning wheel, which you can access at the top of the columns here. And it then gives you links to worksheets that I've developed. And we went through the worksheet because we started with wisdom and knowledge, and then started talking and asking and answering some questions around wisdom and knowledge. And that's why we have been developing this spark here.
Temporary.
All right.
Thank you.
We gotta zoom in more.
I got to zoom. Well, yes, I'm not even sharing right now. So I had to look at things. Hi, Zeek, welcome.
Hey, everybody.
We're just building sparks. I'm actually gonna go over and
Sparking up.
sparking up, yeah. In a good way. We're not burning the house down today. We're building houses. All kinds of other things. Because it's starting to buffer too. It takes too long in buffering when people are trying to look at the whiteboard. So I have to start parsing it out now.
You're kind of at your limit with bogging down that baby computer.
Yes, well, so we're experiencing some technical difficulties here. I apologize for the lag. Currently, we're on a very limited computer. We came to the hotel to make sure that we would have a good meeting today without any interruptions, but that does not stop our technology from being outdated. We tried to get the other computer to work and it's keeps on coming up with
It's
the
up.
HTML.
It's up. We can.
So this is about mapping that emotional and social intelligence, because we're coming into this age of more people being exposed emotionally and having more empathic responses and not having the ability to protect themselves from the negative empathic responses. That's why we look at the character strengths and virtues as like your foundation. And we're basing, of course, all of our work and our share and our efforts and our vision on building a community of ethical conduct and following the golden rule in its highest order. And so this slide just shows a few of the religions around the world who do identify a golden rule of sorts, and it's pretty much the same all around the world. And so then we look at that and we say, to give people more of a roadmap, because we aren't born with manuals. Nobody's giving us a manual on how to live our lives and improve our quality of lives and identify the positive and nurture those positive sparks. And so that's why we put together these principles of ethical standards that are based on two different, so that's from a Sufi, I believe he was a Sufi master, provided a template for universal laws, and we built off of that. This is universal laws of consciousness, that is, which is different from other universal laws that might be out there. And then the other philosophy that we're looking at is the actual business philosophy. They have similar principles of ethical standards in their literature that they teach. So it is identified, it is recognized by the business community. These are some of the pillars and keystones of any business or organization, as well as for our own consciousness. So, and of course, that brings us to this playground where we're all working together, playing together, finding ways in which we can synergize, have the coherence, have those easily identifiable tasks and rules of engagement already established. And that's how the game is going to be so helpful in providing this, because right now we find a lot of conversations circling around the ethics and like who's just feeling, and then where's the action, you know, how are we going to work as a team to complete a mission that actually furthers us all towards our goals, our vision of the future. And when we can say, all right, well, you like art and music, I like art and music, we should get together, let's see if we can have a jam session in this manner. What are we talking about? Okay, well, perhaps somebody has put in their SoulSpark art and music and creativity and industry and infrastructure. How do those three connect? And then somebody else might have infrastructure and art and music and say religion. What would be the combination there? Imagine how the possibilities are endless. Yes, okay. So this is all about virtues and action, like I was saying earlier, with characteristics, virtues, handbook. It's a handbook, by the way. And so, I mean, you know, this is another way to use the SoulSpark game, is to be able to have like a concept in the center, and then you have your components that are on the outside, and you can add arrows, you can add squiggly lines, you can add boxes, all kinds of things. And so what I did here was looking at the character strengths and virtues and how in action, what would the organizational structure be for empowering a life of empowerment, enjoyment, pleasure, and cohesion. And so looking at those virtues and adding them first to give that main focus of each of those virtues, and then how the character strengths empower and bring more energy into those virtues, which then feeds back into that life of empowerment, enjoyment, pleasure, and cohesion. And then I looked at how they connect, the character strengths and virtues connect to the pillars of ethical conduct, our love, honesty, reciprocity, responsibility, morality, trust, respect, integrity, transparency, passion, balance, honor, all of these. There's character strengths and virtues that can be directly linked to them, have multiple meshing capabilities. I don't think I'm done with this map, but I mean, this is another way of looking at, you know, what your personal identifiers, what your personal cares are. And then I went to look at Barbara Marx Hubbard's Wheel of Co-Creation, which is very, very comprehensive. Unfortunately, one of the sectors that none of these organizations that I have seen yet puts family, stable family, and tribe as a part of the wheel or the goals.
Or trust.
And trust is also not in any of these. So, you know, we want to be able to make this fully comprehensive so that it actually works, right? For everyone. And so that's what I did over here is I took the sectors of society and then the community propulsion sectors, and I put them together and then added healthy family, tribe, and relations. So I added to the relations because in Barbara Marx Hubbard Wheel of Co-Creation, she has peaceful relations. Well, peaceful relations most definitely start with being at peace within and having peace within your family or tribe. And so that's why I added those labels, titles.
I found several of the sectors to be missing some components of the sector itself. And the wheel has been modified by a few others that, like, they took and threw justice in with government to make room for ancient wisdom. And I said, well, if you're going to do that, I would adapt ancient wisdom to say ancient and future wisdom.
Right.
Out of that. And education, there's so many ways of learning that are not covered by education, right? If you look at the word, it doesn't have all of these other elements that we're using for different forms of learning that aren't teaching, for example. Where's mentoring as a more proficient method of gaining comprehension or understanding because it's coming from within you already. You already have the answers that just buried under some misinformation. So I agree with adding, but I did think that relations was in different spheres. You very aptly name, your relationship with yourself to start, and then relationship with family and or intimate friends, and then groups, and then organizations, and then networks, and then movements, and you can keep moving in terms of relationships, including cybernetics, which is a relationship between systems and living systems.
Yes. All of those are very important.
Is like when you put, like in Raymond Powell's protocol.love or cogov.tech aspect of governance, it almost puts in some of the justice, right? But it's based in a different way. It's not looked at the same way. If we tried to do justice with our government, no, hell no, it's not going to work.
Right.
But it's not that government we're trying to build. We're trying to build something new that might be really well suited to be with justice. But that's up to you, and I didn't put those two together. I thought that was a kind of an error, because you can have so many other parts in justice. It affects so many spheres of, and in the wheel of co-creation, when you overlay your ethics, the ethics can be in any one of them, right? It's kind of what each person brings to that, or what each group brings to that sector, whether they're using certain values. And some of them are universal, like where would you put in the wheel of co-creation, where would you put permaculture?
Right.
It's like it goes in the hub, maybe, as an integrator.
And that's where this whole section here on the far left is starting to build those skills, talents, and opportunities. Organic agriculture is one I put in there. I don't know if you saw that, but it was organic, sustainable agriculture. We have the layout as far as mentor, seeker. We've all talked about the different levels at which people engage and enter into community projects and organizations and chats and games and any other kind of entry point, and everybody enters at a different level, whether they're a master or an educator or a seeker. Those are a part of everything, whether they're a wise person, they're one of the elders. That's another layer, I would say. So each of these it can also act as a layer within identifying an individual's present moment activities, how they want to see themselves and how other people's can identify them. And like you were saying, for that education mentorship sector, where it actually really crosses all sectors. I mean, because we can have mentors who are teaching about how to make the clean water and sanitation for a community, and new community that's building, or decent work and economic growth. There's mentorship for that, for both the employee and the employer. And so I think that probably we would say would be a summary of all of these identifiers. With your qualifications, you come in and you say, okay, so these are the different sectors of society. These are the different value structures. that I have. These are the different sustainable and regenerative goals that I want to focus on. So I would, then that person is identified as a master in these areas, or as a mentor in these areas, or whatever they choose is their level of engagement, what they want to do, how they want to share their gifts and skills.
Yeah, I believe
Beautiful.
that economics is another one that touches everything in some
Yep.
way, right? As would all of them is the intent, right? We're get away from the silos of each part of society and make a more integrated whole system.
So we have mentorship and apprenticeship down here. It's in the green section because that's more heart-centered. You're giving knowledge and wisdom to another individual, showing compassion, which is a heart emotion. And Nate wants to ask if anybody is building right now. Love to see a spark being developed here as we're talking. Like for
I started, but I got involved in listening to you more carefully.
oh, right? It's hard to play around on a board when talking. That's why we do this workshop where we're going to be investigating each of these separately, and then how do they correlate with each other when we're working in small teams. This helps build that team trust space where everybody can engage, because they're all in the process of building the spark for whatever, whether it's a community, whether it's a project or business. If you go up here at your leisure, you can click on these icons and it will take you to the random wheel spinner. Each of the columns has its own spinner. This is to make it a little more fun for people to get engaged with the process. We're also looking at creating dice. Bill Mazza and Mazzanation, he has done some very successful lectures and projects with organizations and businesses to fire up their like innovative product creation through the process of having dice with different features on them, whether they're taste, smells, touch, words, etc. And so he's been wanting to do something like that for the SoulSpark City, which we're going to hopefully have beginning in November in Boston. So, but yeah, I mean, we want to see this all in an app that has those thin filament lines going from what your focus is to all of the data and information that it relates to, and how we can cross correlate these different sectors and different focuses in a way that makes sense to everyone, that they can take actionable steps for whatever they want to do in improving their quality of life. So I'm going to shut up now and let you guys do a little bit of playing around. Just grab any one of you, just click on an icon and it should just give you the ability to drag and drop.
Yeah, I was going to say it might be helpful just to walk through building one.
Right. So you're gonna, like, here's the one that we worked on last Saturday down here. And I'm gonna take and drag this triangle here and bring it down, and This doesn't have to be the way you put it together. It's just the way I'm putting it together. So have fun with that. Do it however you want to. So for this one, I clicked on the pointer here at the left, click on an icon, and you can drag it over. If you don't want the icon you dragged, you can undo or you can delete it. Prefer if you undo it because I have to go through this board to continue duplicating them. So Echo, what most sticks out to you that you'd like to have a little more detail about?
I mean, I guess I just want to see an example for the onboarding for how to play or fill in a spark, I guess.
Okay, well, so what we would do first is have your name, your email, and other basic information put on your personal tile that then becomes your profile. So you can place your avatar here, whatever you want. It can be a picture of you. It doesn't have to be. And then, you know, we'd like to know how to contact you and how many hours do you want to dedicate to building your SoulSpark, Echo?
I mean, I haven't spent too long in Miro generally, but I'm probably doing that like 24/7 on some level, depending on one's definition.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be on the Miro board. It's about identifying your
Yeah, maybe
sparks.
just show me some of the ones that have already been filled out, maybe.
Sure, I can do that. Let me zoom out here. I can show you. So this one here, we have Marshall, Lua, and Mohan, or Lorenzo. Was that Lorenzo or Mohan? I forget. That was Lorenzo. Okay. So Lua did it in the traditional style that I started with, just attaching them from her most high point where she wants to focus her energy, and then seeing where they link in relation to the different focuses. Can you see that, Echo?
I mean, so those are all those icons represent the different aspects of co-creation that she's prioritizing.
Yes. And how she's prioritizing them. And she took all of them. I mean, she wasn't bashful. She said, okay, well, I see where this links in my representation of me. And I need a foundation where we have strong teamwork, right? And the goal here, I believe, is gratitude with knowledge and wisdom and appreciation of beauty. I can explain to you more about what Inger Meta's recent one was. She's done several of them, and that's another thing. Everybody can do more than one. This is about that nurturing and building up of your soul sparks. So here, for example, we have one where Inger Meta decided she wanted to focus on a key SDG, health, good health and well-being. And she has lots of hope around good health and well-being of people, planet, and everything. And she decided she wanted to have it balanced, so she brought in the forgiveness on both sides having that social intelligence and creativity bolstered by the forgiveness. So once, her idea is like, once you have that forgiveness factor, it gives you the ability to interact with your community more clearly and have more clear and creative thought around what the focus is and how that is related to water, and that water is a big part of health and wellness. And she just made it the way that she wanted to make it look for a ball that she's working on. She's doing some really cool stuff because she was, I forget what year it was, but she's an Olympic champion for football, soccer. And so her whole focus is around soccer and football and passing the ball and providing some support to the sport in third world countries like Pakistan and other places in Africa, and bringing more play into their environment. And she saw these icons and said, oh, I could put those on a ball. And so that's how she developed her spark. She looked at what the layout for a soccer ball is, and then started to mirror it for her own spark. That's just another way that it can be done. It can be done any way you want to do it. I don't care. For you to decide. Have fun. Here's Nana's.
And there's the one that Zeke did for coherent loving being.
Coherent loving beings is right here. Is Zeke still here?
Yep.
You want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, sure. I'll zoom in a little bit.
I'm doing.
Okay, so this is for the commons idea. We had started off with the name Conscious Leaders United, focusing on leadership development and just awareness for a variety of factors going on in the world, and how healthy and holistic organizations can come together and build sustainable and regenerative communities. So I just put my contact info in there. I haven't filled out a SoulSpark. I just did one for the commons. I probably will get around to one eventually, but I have to think about it. And I wanted to have one for the commons so that we could show what it is that we stand for, like embodiment of our ideals and values, and then also a nice little description. So if you could scroll up just a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Maybe
the
it's
idea
hard.
is that a group of us, I think it's now up to about 30 plus people, have agreed to pool together their time, talent, resources, energy, love, etc., into this one thing, right? Whatever this thing is. It's commons is the term that is commonly used, but the idea is it's more than just an economy, right? It's more than just a digital economy. It's an entire way of being, way of living. And it can incorporate all aspects of society, governance models, land, environment, ceremony, community. The idea is to slowly pull away from the old system that's really not serving humanity or the planet. And so it's like, how do we do this? Okay, well, first, really, in my opinion, it starts off with a bunch of like-minded individuals. And so that's where the description comes into place, because that's really the core, that's the heart of the commons, is those that share the core values and they actually practice what they preach, so to speak, right? Following the golden rule. The golden rule could mean different things to everyone, but how it's being used in this context is treat others how you'd like to be treated, or really ideally how you would treat yourself ideally. Not everybody sadly treats themselves well, but that's kind of the point, is to shift the focus towards loving the self, taking care of the self so that you can then serve others. And unconditional love is the foundation. And we had a long discussion about unconditional love, and came to came to an agreement as to what that means to all of us. So we have that as the core foundation. And we're going to be exploring alternate forms of value creation, namely digital assets and different currencies, or NFTs as they're being called, tracking the different value flows that we could have with inside a little mini pod of a community, and then try to figure out how those can interoperate amongst each other, whether it's amongst different networks and blockchains, or whether it's just about how organizations can come together and actually create a truly decentralized autonomous system. So the Funkworks is kind of like a think tank where we get the developers together, put them in a room, dry erase boards, and they just kind of do their thing, and then come up with some designs, and then we have the coders code that into software so we can provide the technological framework, underlying wiring, so to speak, for this new digital thing, this new digital commons. Also, too, namely, we're able to bring in funding to several of these amazing people and projects so that they can keep doing the brilliant work that they're doing.
You want to talk a little bit about why you built the Spark the way you did, Zeek?
Yeah, if you want to zoom in a little bit, I can walk through the
Sure.
yeah. Tiles. I guess they're called hexagons, tiles.
They're badges, icons,
Badges.
tiles, whichever you want to go with.
There we go. Yep. And so love is the beginning. So they're in not necessarily any particular order, but the first couple, it's really kind of serving as the core. I guess really what I could do is rearrange it and put those at the center, and maybe make it more of like a circle than a linear thing. But yeah, love is the foundation, and can't read the other words, but I can pull up my, I think you put a link right up at the top.
Yeah, it's okay.
Or if you could see them, you could just read them off, and I could just describe the reasoning behind some of my choices.
So leadership and mindfulness are the next two down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I want to talk about that real quick. Leadership and mindfulness. And so, leadership, it's like we're stuck in the old ways of this hierarchical top down. And so we tend to see leaders in a certain light, but really, I've been an advocate of like the silent leader and the leadership by example. I think I read a great book called The Leader Who Had No Name, and that really touched me. And so it's interesting because in this transition, there is a huge need for people to step up in really big ways and become leaders that maybe they didn't think that they could become, but really the calling is there, the need is there, and it's time for us to get off the couch and stop complaining about the state of affairs of the world and take action and do something about it. And so the best way, and this is just my opinion, but the best way is to lead by example. And it's just because our choices, our purchasing dollar has consequences, right? Our choices have consequences. And I don't think often enough people are fully in a state of awareness to realize that they're voting for more of the same by continuing to have the same repetitive patterns. And that's why it's very closely linked with mindfulness, because mindfulness, when you become in tune with your environment, your surroundings, your community, the people, the energy, the frequencies, then that really serves as a nice stepping stone to move into, I guess, a more broader state of awareness. And that takes a lot of courage because, it can be lonely, and it can be difficult to be maybe the only one in a small group doing a specific thing. Depending on where people are geographically, they might be the only one that's saying some of these things. They might be the only one that's boycotting certain companies or standing up to make different purchasing choices, even if it is more of a financial burden. And that's where, as much as it is nice to be courageous and stand alone, it can't be done alone. It has to be a group effort. And that's why teamwork is very important. And, that's a good team is a group of balanced people that they themselves have done the inner work and have the core balance. And then really, this is every greatness, all greatness comes with quite the hero's journey. And that's where the perseverance aspect comes into play, because it's the main reason why people fail is they just quit too soon. They just give up on their dreams too soon. If they were to just keep going, they would be able to accomplish anything they want and realize their infinite power. And that's really kind of what all of this is about, is realizing that you are a superhero, that you are an infinitely powerful creator being, and can accomplish everything that your heart sets out to desire, and do it for the good of the collective is what we all stand for as a group of coherent loving beings.
And so then we have open-mindedness and kindness below that.
Yep.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think those are pretty self-explanatory. I think those tie in. That's why I kind of put them all together, because all those 5 tie in, I think, really nicely. And then what are the next ones? Gratitude, I know for sure, is really important.
Love of learning and creativity.
Okay, yeah. So, curiosity, creativity, learning. It's like when we're kids, you just see little children, they come out and they're just this total blank canvas of excitement and enthusiasm and curiosity and adventure. Everything is exciting and interesting. I mean, if you could imagine bringing your awareness to the state of being experiencing this for the first time. We had done a practice in one of our law of attraction groups where we were being grateful for this apple, and we were eating this apple, and we were showing this apple gratitude, and we were thinking in our mind's eye about where did this apple come from, how was it cultivated, what was the tree and the people that grew it, the love and care they had for the crops, and looking at the different colorations in the skin, and then breaking it and hearing the sound at how the piece breaks off, and then smelling it, and then feeling the texture, and then taking a bite and the warmth, the juiciness in your mouth, and just really fully engaging all of the senses into an experience as seemingly simple as just taking a bite from an apple. And I think that's really where it boils down to, is kind of returning to our childlike nature when it comes to the bringing our spirit to our authentic self and true essence.
And that brings us to transcendence.
And there you go, right? It's just kind of a nice and neat, simple formula does not mean easy to do, but it's still a simple formula, and that with enough dedication to the process and willingness to, just take that first step and just keep taking the next step. You don't have to worry about what's 10 steps down the road. You just need to take the next step. And I think that's where we get caught up as a society, is we're just kind of running around in circles, and our minds are spinning and going. And when you think about going out into the Babylon world, it's like all this sensory overload. The music is super loud at the places, and there's all these people running around, and there's traffic and honking, and it's just like sensory overload. So it's like really just becoming more in tune with the self and with others and with the environment. That's the heart of the mission, right?
Would you, so when you put this together, you were just using the original icons we had. Have you looked at the sectors of society, the diamonds that are now available for you?
Yeah, I had made it a while back. I probably haven't checked the recent version. I was having difficulty loading it when I was trying to show some people, and so we might be able to lower the graphic resolution, or potentially, I don't know if we can download some of this stuff to hard drive, or even maybe like take screenshots of certain sectors of it. But I know for sure, like this is definitely what we're going to link into our distributed app. Ideally I wanted to have something like this be a holotrainer application, but I'm still waiting to see the feasibility of that, and it still could be. But also, we're creating our own kind of model for a back-end technology that allows a lot more functionality. The way that like this is taking a while to load because of the graphics, everything, like this would be so much faster. The software client would be what's considered much more lightweight, and things like this, like it would just be really pretty seamless to integrate once it's up and running. So that's probably like, you know, a year or 2 years away. I mean, I'd say it's like 2 years away, because we're only now just getting started on the actual like coding part of it. But you know, depending on what other systems come up with, say like Holochain or whatever else kind of starts coming around in terms of this beyond blockchain technology, we could potentially integrate with you know, other networks too, and leverage a variety of the different advantages that their value proposition might offer.
Yeah, this is taking forever to process that part, but you know, as far as for the board, you have your own Miro board, and you can take your profile and like other badges that you want to use or icons that you want to use, and you can I believe it's copy and then paste into another board. Or what I was trying to show you was down here on the bottom left corner, there are frames, and you can download each frame, and it downloads as a JPEG. Now the resolution is crappy, let me tell you. All of these icons that are in here are at their lowest resolution. When I put them in here, that was the intent. But as you see, looking at the board, and I did just move a whole bunch of frames out of this board, there are still a lot of frames, because there's so much that can happen when you start building your Spark, and then you want to go and connect with somebody who's in the Quantum Dreamweavers group, or the Wiki Writers Club group, or the Women of the Great Game, or the Men of the Great Game. And you can go with one or multiples, you know, you can put yourself in any one of the boards, and it would just be really fabulous if we could get this into an app fast. So I appreciate everything you're doing, Zeek, and you know, I appreciate that you were able to share today about the Spark that you've created for the Commons. And yeah, if there's any way that we can set aside some time and work on your personal Spark and see how we can make this work even more seamlessly, that would be, I mean, that's what we want to see. That's what we want to do. This is by no means our end point. This is our beginning point. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and share what's at my heart often, thinking about living and experiencing a new earth now, right now, not tomorrow, not next year, but now.
Yes, yes, for sure. And you can always come back and nurture your Spark. That's a part of this game, is we want everybody to check on their Sparks and be able to nurture them, rearrange it. If you choose, you know, if at a later time you decide, oh, well, this isn't exactly the way I want my Spark to come be presented, well, then change it for sure. That's what we want. We want you to do that.
I have a couple more questions, but I can see how this can really tell a really wonderful story. And so like, it's great to look at the pictures, like you said, pictures are 1,000 words and they mean so much as well, but it's also fun to be able to read. So I'd love to see like a story behind, or like people giving pieces of the stories about why they're into certain birds, or what they love about it, or what they're doing in that realm. I'm sure there's a lot of potential for expansion, and you have a lot of ideas on that. I don't really want to go there because if you want to, sure, but I want to ask a specific question about what you need to get this going. So you were saying, let's make this an app now, sooner the better. So what do you need to make that happen?
Nate, you there? He's got the technical side of this. I'm more of the designer. I do all of the art stuff, and yeah, I can build websites if I have website builder or some easy app that I can work with. But we have catalysts that we're wanting to be able to integrate because of the ledgering that's available there. So it's about tying these icons to actual solutions. So imagine an app that not like Facebook pop-up that pops up that says, oh, you've got a new message to read. This person just said something in whatever group. Go check it out. No. The idea here is to have pop-ups based on a person's passions, skills, and interests in their community, or where they're able to engage, and saying like, okay, if there's a flood in Texas because of the rainstorm, who in the local area has tools and wants to help fix the problem, save the people, clean up the damage that's been created from the flood. We can either wait on FEMA and the government to approve funding, which tends to be laundered, or we could have the people be able to say, oh, there's this notification. I said I had these interests. I said I have these skills, and this notification is in my area. I want to go check it out. And that would be based on any kind of circumstances, whether it's like local sports games or fundraisers or, you know, parties or other kinds of social activities and gatherings, or Easter egg hunts, you know, all kinds of things. That's how the app I envision would be able to be fun for people to engage with. So they come in, they have the different stages they go through, building their profile, building their SoulSpark, and then once they've done that, they're then given, you know, all kinds of exciting things to do that align with exactly what they care about.
Okay, Echo. Yeah, we started out databasing to like spreadsheets, getting it wired up, and we got the systematic process figured out. Had an opportunity to read that Google Doc manual yet?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I'll get that to you too. Jenny has access to it. Denise has access to it. Mark has access to it.
Yeah, it's a lot of great work I know you guys have been up to. It's great to see some of it. I'll catch up as I can.
We love you.
To further
We know that
answer your
you're working
question-
on your end. You're doing great. Awesome.
To further answer your question, a lot of it's been mirrored out onto the greatworksalliance.com website. That's a mock-up website. And let's see. We've just been chipping away one thing at a time, bouncing back and forth, fill slots, fan things out. So a common digital form right now, it looks like we're kind of waiting for Dylan and Vincent to be available to merge in like a common space between Catalyst, Trove, using Airtable. That's the base he's worked off of or built off of, and Notion that Dylan's been working with. Get the digital collaborative forms consolidated. Vincent's already been working on that area from last I touched base with him. And then into flowcharts, so people have a progression stage available, and incorporating by processes like business processes into that to extend out into viable services. And visual mapping is a big need. We're still waiting for some people to consolidate, group together in mapping things out in a stick and ball fashion going from 2D out into the 3D. Okay, Echo, do you have any other questions?
Just reading through things. It's great.
The cross correlation is the current large concern for accuracy in the database.
And is there like an interface between, I guess, what is a community forum? I'm looking through the intro box now, and there's in the Miro board.
We're just starting to get up on Catalyst Pro, Vincent's project.
So it's being built right now.
Roger that. This is a playground, and the idea of a conscious playground. I haven't really heard how that works out. You can kind of see everybody's ideas in the same place. Overlay on that, but it's fun to watch it. Just wanted to hear you say. Conscious playground. Overlay contact. This is a playground. Consciousness play out.
Yeah,
There we go. Now try.
it's fun for sure. It's super cool. This is super cute, super sweet, super beautiful. I still didn't understand what Echo said, but it's something about conscious playground, but we were talking about value systems and how to exchange like tokens. Oh yeah, only one speaker. Yeah, Echo is solved. So we were talking about exchanging of tokens and in virtual reality space, and how to do that like as a part of the gifting economy, and being like, you know what, I really think that I'm grateful for you. Here's gratitude. You know, you're really beautiful, or that outfit's beautiful, or that art piece you did is beautiful, and you'll be able to post, you know, gratitude tokens. And what we were working with the gene keys. So we were looking at also how to do like shadow tokens too. So we have a joke about shadow token and just making that even like a part of the conversation to talk about the tokens. Here's your gratitude token, because people like to be acknowledged, and it's lovely to say what you are and stuff like that, but the acknowledgement really reminds you of where your strengths are, especially people like me who are storms, who are just like everything. You know, like, oh, wait a minute, wait, actually, I'm kind of good at some things here and there, but not every. Okay, what is it? So when people acknowledge parts of me, then I'm like, oh yeah, that part, you know, and it's. So that was part of Conscious Playground at Burning Man in the virtual reality space. Is we were looking at how to create virtual reality tokens that you actually give to people and that you have, and then you actually start with like a wallet of tokens, and but the Conscious Playground itself was, you know, one of these diagrams or these art pieces where it had an idea of how it was to play. It was like a conscious playground. So the idea of like, what is conscious for a bunch of these thought leaders, and how do we make it so it's safe? Because at Burning Man, there's a lot of really weirdo people, and it's not always safe. And if you've got PTSD already, then you're like, why does that guy want me to suck his dick? You know, it's like, not another one, you know, like just to get on the art car. And that's kind of like the feeling sometimes for some people. Otherwise, it's super magical. So the idea was to like have an actual idea of what that space is. So, and you can see that everyone is creating their own conscious playground here with their board, with their art. Like, this is my conscious playground. This is how I welcome you into this room, or this room. You can be like, this room is about like this, and what you were saying with the coherence love being, or CLB, that was like, okay, that's for a whole group. But what about if you want to go into a room, or even a breakout room, or someone's like, or Awaken Dream Synergy, like this is what the vibe is for today. And the person who's doing the presentation might put, you know, actually nested, even nested pieces within pieces. So like Awakened Dream Synergy is holding a container of some sort, and then it has, you know, maybe even a circular kind of experience of all these pieces. And then within it, there's the people who are bringing their essences, and the presenter has theirs. So I can imagine nested, creating a space, and then people actually bringing their soul spark being in, but also the presenter saying, this is what my project is about. And so that's really cool. Like when you're on Zoom or when you're in a virtual reality space, you can actually like hover over someone or click on their information and be like, oh, look, that person is representing this right now. And then you can start having a conversation about it. So I see that unconditional love is at the foundation of your art piece here. Why? and then it would spawn more interesting conversations. I've been in the art world a lot, and I was always surprised, especially in California, how boring the conversations were, because it was always about, you know, whoever could be the most entertaining. And yeah, it was really boring. And I didn't understand why. I was like, why am I so antisocial, or why don't I get it? And then when I got it was like when someone was like, wow, how refreshing to have a conversation about real stuff. I'm like, oh, you mean you guys don't do that? No wonder why it's dropping dead all the time. You know? Oh, so you don't want to talk about unconditional love and what's happening in the world? Okay. Oh yeah, that booger hanging out your nose is really funny. Boring. So anyway, I just really like
yeah,
what?
normalizing a more creative complexity and depth.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
our culture, how, you know, raising the consciousness, as it were. Yeah, right.
Yeah, just being like, oh yeah, and just even being able to be like, oh wait a minute, that's what I believe in, you know, and being like, yeah, that's right. And to be reminded of that, because so many people are running around the world forgetting what their morals, their ethics, their values, their virtues are, even though they might have learned it in second grade. It's not like there's all these spaces that are reminding you of it. So to be able to go into a space and be reminded of that, it's really wonderful, and have a way to do that. So super beautiful. I love it, you guys. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I feel like that's what these spaces and games, you know, really can do, is remind us of our true nature, and then, you know, then we get activated. You know, these aspects that have been dormant in the rest of our life, like, oh, I don't really matter. It's only how this part of me that everyone wants and commercializes or pays me money for that matters. So,
Right.
and that as soon as like the rest of us get fired up, it's like a whole different, you know, it's a whole different world. And unless you've been to Burning Man, or you've been inspired by art, or you've made real love, like, it's, you know, it can just, the world can be so dead.
Yeah, and I would say that a lot of people actually want to have that spark, that like, hey, it's okay to talk about this, and here's a space to do that, and making it fun, making it a game, like, and getting points for it, because people like to have that reward, that like, ooh, I got something. So this could really deepen.
Yeah, I really, and I like that notion of the spark here for the SoulSpark game. There's something I've been wanting to do a long time, and I appreciated what Mark and everyone brought up earlier with the co-creation, and you know, oh, how comprehensive is our comprehension, and oh, do we need more categories, or do we shove more things into one category? And you know, there's another 12 groups of 12, the LSCL Foundation, and they had an area that was sort of dedicated to what was first called education. You know, they had to like, they ended up with like a 30 word, a very long version of, you know, what they deconstructed that to be. So I appreciate the, you know, the kind of deconstruction and reconstruction, and trying to like create a system that is simple and actionable and then customizable. But then it's really just a matter of like, how do these nodes or these cards or these profiles, and whatever stage in the later iteration of it as an app, like to what degree are those profile fields actionable options for other people, and how do we, you know, like you were saying, points and stuff. I think that's interesting. Like, how can we like give some, you know, some teeth you know, to the gears.
Well, when it's in like an interactive field, like the virtual reality or an actual meeting or a Zoom, then, you know, someone who's a presenter and they're not getting paid, and they get some points for actually showing up and bringing their heart and soul, like, you know, to the world and sharing that. And then us as viewers or people who are, oh, wow, that really, you know, spawns this in me. Then we could give them different virtues or strengths. And obviously they're probably working within a sector. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to say, you know, that's why we wanted to talk to you and Mark and others about this, is because we're all talking about the same types of processes and modalities for transforming this commerce economy of gains by finance, financial gain as being the only metric. Let's start opening the metrics up to how are people in relatability to each other, and like what's really going on there, so that it can be a healthier exchange, that the exchange doesn't have to be monetary. It can be in other forms, recognition, trades, you know, barter, all those are on the table, and that we can be able to have a common area where we're all identifying, okay, these are the baselines, and then we can grow from there, fractalize from there, you know, become that kaleidoscope of creation.
Generative value flows.
Yes, absolutely. That was the idea, because like as well, like at Burning Man, the whole thing about there is there's no cash allowed to be, but it's a gift economy. You can give people things. So a lot of people come with this whole idea of like, I'm going to be giving these things. And so that's why we were doing that in the VR space. Like, well, what can you give in VR space? And you can give gratitude, you can give love, you can give congratulations, you can give all these subjective, as Mark would say, subjective versus objective experiences or value and tokens, gratitude, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, because in the world, we're often not looking at what matters, which is human value. So what matters is that subjective stuff, like the oxytocin that you get, and the feeling of warmth from a hug and a gratitude, and that your life is actually worth living from the gratitude. Then a lot of people are running around super depressed, and then, like, you know, buying a yacht, another yacht, another woman, another sex toy or whatever to get some sort of satisfaction, or another, you know, dinner. And then they're getting fat, and they're all trying to live like a king, and then they forgot, or a queen, that forgot their community. And what does that mean? And who are you in a part of the community? What are you adding to it? What do you value most, more than things in the capitalistic economics overlooks the sacred and the true human values, because it's based upon gain. And what can you get? And the more you get, the more you're worth. And people have that askewed, and they're stuck and lost a lot of times. So let's get people remembering what they love. Oops.
Share your
Yes,
soul.
bring back.
Pardon?
I just said share your soul spark. Someone else was talking to.
Yeah.
So are you able to see the screen share, guys?
SDG action campaign. Right in the back of the pickup on
Right.
a high.
That's right. You see how they're doing the layout and the format to show a summary of the project and like who's involved and how it's correlated to different initiatives like SDG 10, 11, and 16.
Totally.
Word.
What do you think about doing the commons kind of like in this fashion for a summary of the projects and how they cross correlate?
Yeah, I love it. I personally like I guess the design, you know, what everyone's design is going to be for the entire commons.
Right, this follows a basic format essentially, like where we're looking at the name of the project and a summary, and then we've got created by these contributors, and then the location and the SDGs that they're correlated to. So what do you think if we were to adapt that, like use all of that, and maybe instead of the names, use like a bubble icon for someone's profile. So you see their picture there, created by these contributors, and you see a bubble, 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 all these different pictures. The icons for the SDGs, and any kind of DNA format that someone's created for like their SoulSpark, and whatever like their 3 primary core character traits or virtue strengths that they're targeting. And then it could also show something like if an organization was involved, it could show an icon of the organizations that are involved, and it could show maybe even a progress graph or bar graph of their stake in the project, kind of like on a GitHub. You can see a percentage of code, what kind of code that was in the project, how much Python is involved, how much Java.
So it's beautiful to see this as a choice. I love to see. Oh, can you turn off your, I don't want to hear an echo.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I don't know why it's echoing, but so what I was saying is I've seen a lot of different ideas on layouts and how to simplify that and how to deepen it. I love the idea of using an image as the background, and then in the forefront, you know, having the information, and a lot of times the image in the background is darkened so that the information can pop. And also in the SDGs, they're vectors. So the DNA would want to become vector oriented, and the different hexagons would want to be more vector oriented, so it can, but it's already got the basis there. So it's just about designing that so it fits in, you know, JPEG kind of. Yeah, but you said you had it in the lowest resolution or something like that when you uploaded, so it would be, so on a website it could be more high resolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was just for the Miro board that we put it at low resolution, and you
Yeah,
know, I think that we can expand on this model, but this wouldn't be the full commons. It's like a part of the commons that goes directly into projects, like for people who want to just see what projects are on the board. You know, Open World Alliance has their setup kind of similar, only not with the identifiers like this. So just looking at these different models and trying to make it even more user engaging and user friendly would be, I think, really awesome.
These are project portfolio summaries.
yeah, I think the SDGs and the icons are key. Like that's really where it's at.
Yeah, so if someone wanted to come in, say like an investor, for example, and they want to connect or find out who's available, who's doing what kind of projects in a certain area that they're passionate about, they can filter it out and it being ranked according to like who's the most proactive, not just in activity, but a lot of other factors like their aptitude in it, their level of research, their level of dedication, the number of people involved. How generative is it? Does it generate outside of just that one pot or bucket into other initiatives? Like if you're focusing on SDG 17, does it overflow in a generative way to support others like SDG 13 or 3 or 7 or what have you?
And how is the community sectors involved, like the scientific sector and the government sector and governance and
Bullet points.
where are they joining together their forces to focus on this SDG or this regenerative opportunity or whatever might be the current issue that that community is focusing on?
I could speak to a couple of those.
Go.
Maybe just mute on your end. So at least to Nate's point, I spent a fair amount of time at the Foundation Center in New York City. It's currently candid.org. A huge amount of resources there, basically on the whole approach of who's funding what. But basically, yes, to all of Nate's questions and your whole point around the concise, metrics-based, display. You're doing a lot of the homework for any nonprofit or any entity, granting organization or individual who's going to want to know that their money's going to a place that is already doing the facts and circumstances, is what it's generally called, at least by the IRS standard. But there's a number of other CHAR 500 or other charitable forms that organizations have to fill out. So if you're kind of aware of either the granting cycles and or the reporting cycles for those organizations, then it can give you a pretty good window into how to approach a lot of these folks. And it looks like that's where you're trying to structure some of this. So if you've got, some of the other basic level, infrastructure set up so that, that you can either have an umbrella that is a 501c3, or you've got organizations that can directly take and work with and source the money the way that you're wanting to. I'm assuming that Federal Reserve notes are desired. I'm mostly trying to get people off of that addiction, but you have to play the game to change the game, obviously. And some of the infrastructure here is, could have a price point attached on either end. But until the rubber meets the road, it's all just talk. So, I mean, I'm happy to help you kind of talk through some of the nitty gritty stuff if you want.
Cool. Yeah, man.
And yes, I mean, this is definitely looking at being able to provide that transition. And that's what Zeek was talking about a little earlier, because right now we're in a great transition here. Our society is going through so many upheavals. People have been in their homes for over a year now because of COVID being an issue. I don't think it's an issue, but that's my personal opinion. So it's great to see that more people want to learn more and investigate about themselves now that they've had this alone time. So, anything that we can do to bring it forward and enable these people to actually do that and build up their emotional resilience and these emotional intelligence, which then translates to higher IQ, because when we have a higher EQ, we're more capable of being able to use our thinking skills in a proper way in order to have the advancement and quality of life for ourselves and those that we care about. So, I mean, any way that we can do that, if it requires that we have pods this is what we're looking at right now, the pod option. So people taking this framework, putting it into whatever organizational structure you already have, seeing how you can apply these pieces and these tools so that you can help build up each individual and then also build the teamwork capacity for the whole organization or cause or product.
I think you guys have a good baseline. I think making up a use case for how you can apply it and how it can and really starting with as many of the like-minded organizations, you know, work with the willing, whatever, get a there's a critical baseline. It's usually somewhere between 50 and 500 entries in a database before there's some life to it, you know, or whatever it is, participants in a game before you can look around and go, oh, somebody, oh, it's a party. Somebody here's got something I want, you know, whatever it is. Yeah, there's a lot of pre-irrigation. But then once you have a, you know, on one level, the structure of how you're going to quality control this, how you're going to maintain it over time, what are your SWOT lists of the two of you and whoever else is Great Works Alliance, and then what you have to outsource or what skills you don't have, so that you've got your whole package of here's our deliverable, like the minimum viable, just the very basic, very smallest level, and then the more that you can really do that one thing really well, you know, and have a community, whoever it is participating in it, then people like Denise and Mark and myself, anybody else who's in like-minded can start to go like, okay, this is a viable resource, and the affinities and affiliations are where it's going to start to actually have, you know, turn other wheels or whatever, right? So it's just being of service, but then as soon as you're able to move something, that's when you've actually got momentum you can work with. And just being, and so there's a whole new standard now for nonprofits, which you guys seem to have reverse engineered through all your SDG stuff and other research and everything. But basically it's around transparency and community building. So, which is all what the websites are pretty much turnkey to do anyway these days. It's all pretty much like, okay, we get it, like whatever, we just have to do the fractal everywhere, like, geez, whatever, like. So for me, it's just about maintaining the passion and having it, you know, and having like a region. Because like if you're talking about doing a physical, because I've done a lot of new currency, alternative currency stuff, and as soon as you start talking about making a physical coin, you're in a region. You've got people who recognize or don't recognize something that's being physically created. You've got a cycle that you're taking material, transforming it, repurposing it. These days, 3D printers, like recycle stations, are practically moot. I mean, they're half the time the recycling is just going to the garbage, and everybody's like turned into like Russians who are just. I mean, if you know any, I'm a huge Russophile. I'm a major Russophile. I love Russians, and they have mir ist mir. Is this whole like the world is peace, and it's like it was a government slogan for so long, and everybody's just like, you can't believe the government. So it's just like so opposite. It's like they've been so under an openly oppressive regime, whereas we're on the flip world where we're like, oh, the big Uncle Sam, he's got our back, you know, and so we can learn a lot from them, right? And so for me, it's like being able to kind of play with that seduction magic, which is, you know, you're onboarding. Yeah, okay, well, like you gotta, you know, like, and I'm trying to work on a game too. I'm happy to spend some time helping move this thing forward. Something else I'm trying to work on is this whole idea of pass the torch, and like people go, okay, here's my spark, and it's really about honoring the elders while they're here and just getting whatever alternative currency we can into the hands of whatever youngsters are willing to go out there and record these people and just, you know, get as many of the marginalized and elder voices as we can out there. So that's something I'm trying to put into a form. And if there's an infrastructure to support, you know, where it's otherwise it's all back about begging for money to pay people to travel, to pay people to do versus like, okay, work with the willing and reward and just, you know, and so on a certain level, we all really need a basic financial infrastructure that underpins all these projects. And so if we have if we do our super accounting on all these other fronts, so that it's super, all the words, agile, really intelligently, implementing what's already working in every little piece. There we go. Yeah, I wanted to hear Denise talk too, but I just wanted to, basically just template it and modularize it as much as possible. So if you're talking about doing it in a region, you mentioned Boston, or I don't know if you're in Miami, you just did the crypto thing maybe, or whatever. So check out Coral Castle while you're there. But yeah, anyway, lots to discuss, or especially around trying to do anything, just really knowing like the scale is huge. Like as soon as, because it's like not even a factor until you're over 10 to 50,000 people, and you have to have everything really ironed out well before that. So you need to go through a number of beta cycles before you're ready to go on. All right, yeah, let's hear Denise.
No, I was just saying I wanted to hear you. No, I'm really enjoying listening to you. So please go on if you want to continue.
I mean, maybe somebody had a question, but those are the main things I wanted to share.
You got a lot of reading, bro. Yes, we've been looking at funding infrastructure for all these different pots and how they can divide out. Lyra did an immense amount of homework in capturing the data available for like the UN and how they're breaking out the UN SDGs. That breaks out to about 230 different projects, essentially. And just using those as an example that's already available and currently in operation. As far as test pilots, that's where a lot of the research comes from, like with positive psychology. We looked for areas where test pilots have already been done, not just the research, but how has it been implemented? Where has it been implemented? Who's been involved? What were the pros and cons? And in what kind of environment? Whether it's various forms of addiction, alcohol, drug, VA resources, elementary, all kinds of stuff. There's been an immense amount of stuff been tested out, even over in employers and governments. They've been testing with it. We found quite a bit available over in Europe that's in the research that I'll share with you a little bit later. Got a lot of this compiled over into spreadsheets at the moment. Right now it's just kind of so big and wildly going in so many different directions. It's hard to keep in your head and keep track, especially with like Google Docs bullshit. It just needs to get consolidated and then visualized out for like the business modeling to confirm all the validation points that's necessary. Essentially, let's see, the average piece is each object acts as a node on an average of 3 division points. And then 3 more and 3 more. So it's definitely nesting out like really wild. And we definitely looked at the vectoring aspect. Denise, you are 100% on. That's why I've used the reference, especially recently over the past month or so, spatial orbit. Like a lot of us have contacts or introduced to people that have worked with NASA and doing different types of simulations. And we've been using the example of your shoes perspective. If you're on Earth in North America and you want to look out at Pluto, at your buddy over there, and he's looking back at you, what does that look like? And what if you got another buddy over at Mars? You know, and when you're orbiting differently at different rotations and orbit durations, what does that look like?
Giving people the ability to see the whole elephant, not just a piece.
So things like Unity and Unreal are really great tools. We're looking forward to connecting with the other people like Jordan and Brandon over at Plan Systems and other people in integrating into their systems. We've been looking at this being an underlying framework for their gaming engines and all out into business operations like turnkey businesses, different types of tribal levels of separation, how people want to group or not group together, team structures. There's a lot of work done and to be done.
And as far as the on the ground stuff, we do have several places that want to start implementing some of these tools. So for the SDG Academy in Pakistan, Inger Mehta wants to take and bring the UN SDGs workbook into the school system, along with the character strengths and virtues workbook, so that they can start going through and exploring. And if you want to explore the workbook, all you need to do is click on the link.
Wait. In the middle of-
Oh, I was in the middle of talking. Yeah. So on that board, there's a link to the name and the icon. And you can go to that and go to directly the pages for that label, that icon. Or I've also got it so that, and I'm going to share it in this chat. It's a link to the whole workbook.
See that delay?
I see it. It's
Well,
been
wait.
doing that.
Working hard.
It's a dinky dinky computer working hard. So, I mean, you know, for tests that are going on right now, or starting to go on, or about to happen, it's amazing. So another way we're looking at this is having an event of like a mobile caravan. And that's where Bill Mazza and Ed Lance come in with their virtual and immersive experiences to be able to bring this into a visualization that is on the ground, that goes to the cities everywhere that have the domes, so that people can go into the immersion domes and then come out and be able to have a different perspective because they went into somebody else's shoes. They started learning about things from a randomized kind of position instead of structured. There is still structure to it, it's just a bit random. And I'm trying to find the link for you. Give me a moment, because my computer is actually slow again. So, I mean, you know, anybody who wants to try and take this model and use it in their work environment to build up their workers, employees, or their community cause, or, you know, event coordination, all of those. All right, so that's that one. Let's see. We are going to have to head out soon, though. We have a call with Graham next. He was calling a little earlier, and I said, I'm in the middle of a meeting. But, you know, just bringing these gamified opportunities to people in whatever fashion. So like with Graham and the game of now, we'd like to see if he'd be willing to bring some of these icons into the game of now, just playing with them, you know, that would be awesome. The rules are yours to make right now. This is
Beautiful.
that beta development phase.
Yeah, to be able to see all these different games and these different aspects integrate and work together. that's where it's really amazing. That's where I guess the engineers really get to be like, okay, this is how we create the foundation and interlink, like making it modular for different pieces and creation. So beautiful. Thank you all. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to hear the
And
presentation.
we really appreciate you. I'm sorry.
Just saying, great job, guys. A lot of great work.
Thank
And
you.
you bring a huge piece that's missing from a lot of game design side of things. You've done a lot of work about how to apply it, so I just wanted to give kudos to that.
Well, I'm grateful that you see this, and let's see what we can do working together to make this more user friendly, so that we can really have that collaborative commons where we're all being able to offer and share our gifts and our cares and what we need, and see if we can do it in this organic manner of yeah, this is what I love. I love the water. I care about my dolphins and whales. I want to do more for the oceans, the world's oceans. What can I do? How can I get involved?
I did just wanted to point
Okay.
out, I'll put a link in there for Peace 2030 .earth. It's one of the side projects that's also got Cool Blocks, which is a climate action sort of a template, different how neighborhoods and or town-wide groups can do to try to model energy efficiency and so on. But it's all through the Empowerment Institute and Steve Gershon's work. So there's, if you guys go through the piece on Earth zone and you look at whatever part of the world you're in, if there already is a piece on Earth zone, or if there isn't one, you could start one. And it could be another way to kind of like roll out whatever other games you're doing. And that's sort of the approach I like to use, is like join everything, and then, as a member, then you can also like correspond and correlate and make a more organic, bridge to whatever your longer term networking or project is. So just another suggestion.
I carry the torch here in Fremont for Peace on Earth 2030. We've had lots of conversations with them. Unfortunately, Miranda, yeah, has not had the time to get back to us, and we have reached out to Gershon, and I guess they're just very caught up in the Peace on Earth campaign. We haven't really heard much back from them, but well, we'd love to have that integration and collaboration happen. Absolutely.
If you check your Telegram side, you'll see the playlist and the player's manual. Let us know if you have any other questions.
Awesome. We'll do y'all.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you for sticking around and checking everything out. Hey, Denise, you want to say something before we go?
No, thank you. I just want to say, great guys. Thank you so much, and have a good day. Good night. Take care. Beautiful work.
And thank you so much. And we look forward to learning more about your SoulSpark at a later time. We'd like to schedule a meeting with everyone after they've built their Spark to offer like their insight and perspective from what they've built.
Cool. That's so cool. Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
All right, you guys have a great evening. Blessed be, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.